Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the Volkswagen Passat B4. Welcome back. And Quarterlight, if you don't know, we're a small YouTube channel looking at car brochures 3 times a week. So if you're interested in looking back at old cars that you may remember from the past, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode. The Volkswagen Passat, what's referred to as the B4, which is this particular model, but we'll look at some of the details. It actually was first produced in October 93, although this is a very early 94 model for the UK market. So let's have a look at that now and look at some of the details and how it changed from the B3. And here is the Volkswagen Passat brochure from what it says the new 94 Passat, because this is a UK brochure, and it does actually kind of like open up. If we open it up like this, it kind of like shows the full front of the Passat. It's dated here January 1994, so it's a very early one, this one, for the UK market. The thing with the B4, I always thought it wasn't really entirely a new model, though, even though it's saying the new 94 Passat, really. It was just a very heavily facelifted Passat B3, really. I don't know if you remember the B3. In fact, I'll pop a picture up somewhere of the B3, but you can see it went from, well, I say it went from, but to be honest with you, it did actually change pretty much every panel on there apart from the roof and the glass. But the most noticeable difference, I really should say, is that front grille. We went from having no grille to this more conservative design of bringing back what I refer to as the smiley front grille on the front. I must confess, I kind of like the design without the grille, but nevertheless, it certainly was an improvement over the B3. Although, like I say, it wasn't strictly an entirely new model. And certainly if you look at the interior, it's only really very much a mild update from the interior of a B3. The basic dash really remained unchanged. The noticeable change really from a B3 is it was a further refined vehicle, higher quality, I always thought, than the B3. And in fact, we did actually get a compact 6-cylinder engine for the first time. So that really is what made this a step up for Volkswagen. Okay, so that's the front cover. So we'll open the brochure up still further, and we get this little bit of a supplement specification page. We'll have a look at that a bit later. Rather nicely, we get this very nice shot of this Passat. Hard to say what colour, if is that just black, I'm not sure, but it certainly looks good in that colour either way. It says this is the new Passat GL with optional Westwood alloy wheels, so that's a optional extra wheel. Not a particularly nice wheel, I don't think, particularly that one, but there we go. It almost looks like something you just pull out of the accessories shop at a non-main brand, but nevertheless, it does look particularly nice, this one. The GL, I just thought the GL was quite a rare one, really. Most of them seem to be the base model CL, and this brochure actually is only showing the 2 models, the CL and the GL. We will have a look at some of this text though. Okay, so it says the new Passat incorporating a host of design features that set it apart from the competition. The new Passat is available with power outputs to suit a wide variety of tastes and requirements, ranging from the 75 brake horsepower 1.9 litre Umwelt diesel up to the 174 brake horsepower 2.8 litre VR6. Please note that the VR6 is featured in a separate brochure. So yeah, we won't be looking at that VR6 today. It's just going to be the the models you would most likely have. Stylish, yet superbly practical, spacious and comfortable. The impressive handling and responsive engine make the new range of Passats attractive to both driver and passenger alike. As you would expect from Volkswagen, the safety features are comprehensive, and indeed the B4 brought around more safety features. Both the driver and front seat passengers have their own airbags and seat belt tensioners. Adjustable head restraints are fitted all around. ABS is standard fitment on petrol engine models of 115 brake horsepower and above, and side impact protection is built into the door structure. It goes on to say, all new Passats have an impressive list of standard features or standard equipment features, which include front and rear electric windows, a glass electric sunroof, central locking and a dust and pollen filter. Welcome to the new Passat. Okay, so this brochure is actually quite a big brochure, so I'm not going to spend too much on each page, to be honest with you. This page was simply entitled Comfortable, showing these nice seats. You can see sort of like the rear armrest, kind of like quite a traditional sort of looking interior, nothing out of the ordinary really for the 90s. But certainly Volkswagen were trying to bring the Passat up a class, I think. On the next page, it gives us this rather nice interior shot. No huge changes really on the interior. There is some little bit of key designs which we'll flick through at the bottom though. And there's nothing really out of the ordinary, but it says here lockable. Both rear seat backrests can be folded down to increase the luggage area. For added security, these can be locked in the upright position using the car's ignition key. So I guess that's a little bit unusual, having that locking device. Don't know how useful that is really, but there we go. We've got the split rear backrest, which was becoming more popular in even saloon cars to pass things through. We've got an electric sunroof and electric windows. Okay, so this is quite a nice picture because it's pretty much the most common Passat you tended to see, and certainly in this brochure, like I said, there's only a CL and a GL model shown, so in this particular brochure this would have been your base UK model at this very early time. You can see these very basic wheels and a flat red, so that was probably your most commonly seen Passat B4, I think. Pretty much just going on about safety. Like I say, they added more safety features on the B4, so that's what it's really mentioning here. If we turn the page still further, it gives us this rather sort of like interesting strength type of diagram showing the airbags, safety features that it might have, you know, front seat belt tensioners. It's talking about the ABS system. Let's move the screen down a little bit. Rear head restraints, which were becoming more common, and this collapsible steering column. Yeah, great, but kind of like you saw that in Volvos in like the 70s. But nice to see, you know, safety becoming more of a forefront in car design. Kind of like late by the 90s, really. But there we go. That's really what the Passat was all about, the B4 Passat. And indeed, it's showing here the airbag system. And here it's really just talking about quality. It's saying this particular model is the Passat GL. If I just move it out a little bit, it's a very shiny brochure actually, this one, so I do apologise with all the reflections. So really it's saying here better quality, and again this is what the B4 was about, trying to make the Passat a more upmarket vehicle and allowing them to charge that little bit more for a quality German car. The only thing about these more modern brochures, like I say, this is a 90s brochure. When you go from looking at 70s brochures to 90s brochures, they're not quite as exciting. The wording is a little bit more sensible. If we just move into the wording on here, there's not that sort of creative wording that we see on later brochures from the 70s and 60s. Here it's really talking about quality, since introduction in 73 when the Passat came out. It said it's established a reputation for quality and reliability, and it's saying, this is a further improvement on that. And like I said, this is a big brochure, isn't it? So I don't want to spend too much on each page, but here it's saying flush fitting windows, this improved painting system, flowing lines. It's saying, to give the illusion that all the panels are one piece. I guess also to eliminate the squeaks and rattles. This sealed electrical plugs to make a more reliable vehicle, and a fully trimmed boot. Incidentally, this is only showing the saloon model in this brochure. This is kind of like a strange page. It's actually saying you're environmentally responsible, and I kind of think the 90s was kind of like moving on to being a bit more environmentally minded. So he's talking about a lot of the parts being able to be recycled, as long also with reduced emissions of the car. This particular version, it looks quite classy, doesn't it? Is actually the highest spec model, the Passat GL. Like I say, put in the comments there, but I don't remember seeing that many GLs. They all seem to be CLs, I seem to remember. Everyone, of course, now is going to say, yeah, I had a GL, but just from my memory. It's showing here the new diesel engine, the 1.9 litre 90 brake horsepower TDI engine. So not an exciting engine, but certainly, giving a good fuel economy for what is a mid to large sized family car. And then it's going through various little bit of features, talking about the making of the plastics, this catalyst, and it's referring back to recycled parts again. Now finally actually talks about a Pacific spec model, the Passat CL. So let's have a look at some of the features of that Passat CL. Seeing here for the Passat CL, standard equipment features on the CL are comprehensive power steering, heat insulated green tinted glass, electrically heated windscreen washers, jets, front and rear electric windows, and a glass electric sunroof are just a few of the many features. In addition, all new Passats feature the unique Volkswagen anti-theft central locking system. Simply set by locking the car from the outside. Any attempt to unlock it by raising the interior lock button is resisted, adding to the car's security. There's also attractive new wheel trims and partially colour keyed bumpers to help complete the picture. So I guess that's why this CL was so popular. It had really all the features that the average person would have wanted in the 90s, so why spend that bit more for the GL? And this is the interior of the CL, and yeah, the seats do look quite basic, and of course it did talk about having electric windows all around, and then there's obviously a wind up window there, so I'm not really quite sure what that's all about. At the top it's showing we've got a rev counter, kind of like what you would expect at this time, and a parallel seat height adjuster. Again, you can see those wind down windows. And of course this is a very early UK brochure in it, and it's obviously showing a left hand drive car, which probably is the reason why some of these pictures aren't really matching up what it's actually telling us what the car actually has to offer. So sometimes these things do happen on these early brochures where they're trying to get a brochure out quickly for a new model. When we turn the page, we get to this higher spec GL model. So we'll certainly have a look at some of the text. Okay, so the Passat GL, it says in addition to the equipment levels found in the CL, the GL also includes electrically adjustable and heated door mirrors, an intermittent windscreen wiper facility with a variable delay period of between 1 and 22 seconds approximately to contend with variable weather conditions, door mirror housing and side bump strips in body colour, so these sort of like rubbing strips being the same colour as the car, complements the colour keyed bumpers to give the Passat GL the little extra visual appeal. So not a huge step up really. So this is then the interior of that Passat GL. We're not going to look into all this right in too much detail like we always do. We'll look at the actual specifications later. Although interesting, it does says please note that the area normally occupied by the glove box now contains the front seat passenger airbag. And then goes on to say there is storage elsewhere, so there is that sort of loss of what would have been the glove box there by looks of it. If we look at the smaller little pictures, as I wobble the camera all over the place, so I do apologise for that. It's talking here firstly about these seats being a comfort seat, standard equipment for the GL and optional on the CL. The reclining driver's comfort seat features adjustable lumbar supports. It also has a parallel seat height adjustment facility as well as seat angle and reach adjustments. We've got this height adjustable steering column, looks like that's an option on the CL. Electrically adjusted and heated door mirrors. And we've got an option of a 16 valve engine producing 150 brake horsepower. And that nicely leads us up to this next page. This is the Passat GL 16 valve. Again, it's showing that this particular model has these optional Westwood alloy wheels. We'll look at some of this text though. It's saying in the Passat 16 valve GL, taking the luxuriously and comprehensively equipped GL and adding further to the performance capabilities. The GL 16 valve offers the discerning motorist a practical and stylish executive express. The 16 valve engine produces 150 brake horsepower at 6,000 RPM and features the Digifant electrically ignition and fuel injection system. The plus axles include revised front axle geometry to help prevent torque steer under hard acceleration, increased caster angle and modified spring and shock absorber rates. The vehicle shown is a 2 litre 115 brake horsepower GL with the optional 6J Westwood alloys. I kind of think it's quite weird. So it's showing the actual model is the standard GL with 115 brake horsepower rather than the 16 valve, which this page is talking about. I know a little bit of a weird thing about this brochure. Okay, and then we get to a nice optional equipment page, so we'll certainly have a look at these different options. Some of them would have been quite rare at the time, I think. So some of the options you could have had on your Passat, I wonder how many were actually spec'd like this. First of all, electric air conditioning. Doesn't seem so fancy in other countries, but in the UK in the 90s it was quite unusual to have air conditioning on your car. This one available on GL models as an option. We've also got an option for an automatic 4-speed gearbox available on the 115 brake horsepower engines. We've got something that they fancily called a thermotronic The Thermotronic electric heating control system helps maintain a constant interior temperature, which can be reset using the rotary controls. We've got a different version of an alloy wheel if you preferred. This one's called the Brands Hatch alloy, an option only on the GL 16 valve. We've also got an option to have fog lights on all the models. And other options, we've got a tow bar, headlight adjustment, tow bar with detachable ball and electric headlight adjustment, comfort seats on the CL, ABS for vehicles under 115 brake horsepower. Of course, it said earlier ABS was standard on all those above 115. We could have cruise control, heated front seats, rear window blind, manual air conditioning, that Westwood alloy wheel that it keeps mentioning, headlamp washers, and then it says, please consult your Volkswagen dealer for full details and availability. Like I say, I wonder how many Passats had all these little extras added on. Not many, I would suggest. It mentions this very rare feature, leather upholstery for the ultimate luxury. Full leather trim is available on the GL models. The trim includes heated sports front seats, normal rear seats, door cappings, steering wheel, gear knob and handbrake gaiter. So, when we're talking about Volkswagen trying to make their Passat sort of a more luxurious vehicle, I think that's really can be seen in this picture. How amazing are them seats. Never have I ever seen such nice seats on a Passat. I wish I could just get them a little bit clearer. There we go. Lovely front seats, aren't they, them, and very nice rear seats for that matter. But I've never seen a Passat with those seats, but certainly I don't know what the price of those were, but that's certainly throwing the Passat into a different real sector with those seats. And then it's also showing we can have an additional third head restraint on your Passat, just to further impede rear view visibility. No, but really adding a bit more safety if you wanted it as a 5-passenger vehicle. Then we just get a page talking about your warranties, your paint warranties, etc., sales and rental, before we get this nice picture of the different seat trims on your Passat. So there was actually quite a wide range of different seat options that you could have. So this would have been your trim for your CL model. They call this the wings, I guess, because of this unusual little V-type formation. And then if we look at the GL, it's called a Terra Velour for the GL. So a nicer seat trim. And then 2 leather options, a black and a beige. It also shows down the bottom here the different combinations you could have depending on which colour you actually chose. I'm not going to go through all that obviously, but there it is. So one thing I really like about Volkswagen brochures, and I always have, and they've done this for a long time, they've often included the colours on the brochures. A lot of, when we talk about other companies like Ford and British Rail, and they tended to have a separate sheet which always kind of got lost. Here it is still in the 90s, they're still printing it on the brochure, which is a nice thing. I do approve of that, Volkswagen. It's showing a door obviously in the different colours, so we've got an English green, candy white, tornado red, maritime blue. And if we move down still further, we've also got a velvet blue metallic, and this I quite like this called this soft green metallic. That's quite pleasant. Got your metallics as well as that. You would have had to pay a little bit more for your metallic paint, but the option was there. So you've got a Titan grey metallic, a Windsor blue metallic, which sounds very nice, brilliant black metallic, This sounds rather nice, an Indian red pearl effect, that does sound nice. And also a satin silver metallic. So the colour choice in the 90s, even in the 90s, was far superior to today. It is one of the things that makes me sad about modern cars, that the colour choice is so poor. Even in the 90s, the colour choice was far, far better. So that does bring us to the end of the brochure. We do still have this specification and equipment levels, which actually does nicely matches up when you turn it to the back page. That wasn't really planned, but that does work out quite now. So we will look at the specifications as well. It's not a very big specification page, or it looks quite wordy. I'm not going to read through it all, but let's zoom in and have a look at some of the features for these early B4 Passats. There we go, there are the different models at this time. Of course, it doesn't show the VR6, of course. That would have been, like it said at the start of the brochure, that would have been a separate brochure, kind of like a bit more of a specialised vehicle. But these were the standard models at the time. So we've got the CL and the GL as spec levels, and then on top of that we've got the different engine choices. So we've got a CL Umwelt TD, and then we've got the CL or GL TDI. The Umwelt TD, of course, was the model without, it was turbocharged, but it didn't have an intercooler on there. And then we've got a 1.8 CL, a 2 litre CL or GL, and a 2 litre GL 16 valve. And you can see some of the specifications there for the various different models, or should I say engine choices. There was also the transmission as well. So we've all got 5-speed manual transmissions, or a 4-speed also at this time. 5-speed gearboxes are now pretty much the norm by the 90s, where the early 80s we could, when for example the Sierra came in, it still had a 4-speed box, of course. And the performance levels, so that very basic diesel, we're doing a top speed of 102 miles per hour, but 0 to 62 in 18 seconds, which is surprising really, isn't it, in the 90s, how slow that particular model really is. Then we've got the intercooler models, we can jump up to 0 to 62 in 14 seconds, still not a fast car by any stretch of the imagination. We really had to get to the 2 litre GLs and CLs to get top speed of 121 miles an hour, 0 to 62 in 11.8 seconds. So none of them really very fast. You had to really go for that 4 model there. You really had to go for that 2 litre GL 16 valve to get a reasonably quick car. 9.7 seconds isn't fast, but under 10 seconds is reasonable. Did have a surprisingly good top speed though of 132 miles per hour. So we really can't accuse Passats at this time, or standard Passats at this time, for being a lively vehicle, that's for sure. But of course there was a big advantage getting those diesels with the fuel consumption, of course, as we can see on the lines below there. So exceptionally good fuel economy, particularly if you got that TDI engine. That was really the one to get. Average performance, yeah, but fuel consumption extremely good. And of course in the UK, for some people that was really a huge thing, particularly if you're doing a lot of miles running up and down the motorways. Further sort of wheels and tyre specifications on there, maximum luggage weights, etc, etc. And then you get the standard and optional equipment, and then this is really why I think there weren't that many GLs. Most of them were CLs, because if you look at it, most of them they've got it as standard anyway. The exceptions, of course, are anti-lock brakes on the the lower powered engines, but it still was an option. And the door mirrors, electrically heated and adjustable, painted on body colour. They were also on the GLs and not on the CLs, although still an optional extra on the CL. And then if we move down the page, steering column adjustable, optional on the CLs, standard on the other. So there really wasn't a huge jump, and I think that's one of the reasons, at least on paper, why more people jumped for the CL rather than the GL model. Because all the important things that you wanted in the 90s, things like power steering, etc., the CL had them anyway. And if we move down, this is the rest of the equipment levels. Of course, I'm not going to go through all this because it would, we're already pushed for time, and it's going to turn into quite a long video actually, which I'm surprised by. But there are the rest of the levels of equipment. So you can actually pause that. Sorry for jumping at the end there. You can actually pause the screen if you do want to see the rest of that. But now let's move on to the final back page. Okay, so this is the back page. So it's showing that colour and upholstery combinations again. And then at the bottom it's showing the dimensions of the car. And then that's where your dealer stamp would normally be, the new 1994 Passat Saloon, issued January 1994. So there we go, that comes to the end of today's brochure review for the Volkswagen Passat B4. Let me know your memories about the B4 Passat, whether it's your own, you had a driving one once, etc, etc. They're all the comments I really enjoy reading. But for now, we'll say thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. So take care and goodbye.